Hey everyone, Bigfoot here. We're going to review my Zpacks Duplex Tent that I took with me during my 100-day Appalachian Trail thru hike of 2016. Alright, well, to start off with, I already set up my tent here. If you're curious how I personally set up my tent, it's a little different than, I guess, the conventional way of setting up the duplex. I found to be a little bit easier. Go ahead and check it out in my details of this video below. Well, kind of going a brief overview, I have my tent set up here. I have a couple of the storm doors on the north side of my tent open, and I have one storm door open on the other side, just to kind of give you a look of what it looks like. Now, the total weight of this tent comes in at 21 ounces, which is absolutely amazing considering this is a two-person tent. This is a real two-person tent, so you can fit two people in here, and I'll kind of show and talk about that a little bit later. Now, the price does not include the stakes. So the stakes are going to average somewhere between 1.5 ounces to 2.5 ounces if you're buying them off of Zpacks. And what I personally recommend is getting the 6.5 inch stakes for all of your tie downs except for the storm door tie down. The storm door tie down, I actually recommend getting the 6.5 inch V stakes. These are great because they're really going to hold in the most crucial part of the setup of your tent, which is your storm door on both sides, which really is keeping your trekking pole in place here. And I experienced a couple of issues when I was on the trail last year with my duplex tent actually breaking down due to some high winds when I was up on a couple of ridge lines, and I learned my lesson not to tent up on ridge lines anymore. But it's because the other stakes just didn't do any justice with holding in. These ones do a fantastic job. Now you also can get some carbon fiber 6.5 inch stakes that are supposed to hold just as well, but I bring 2 of the V stakes and then 6 of the 6.5 inch titanium stakes. Now, a few other details about this tent. It has 2 doors, as I said earlier, and they have the rainbow zipper, so makes it really easy to get in and get out. Now, one thing that you're going to notice about this particular tent is I don't have the most updated version of their duplex. What you'll see on their new duplexes is they're going to have a storm door closer somewhere right around here of each side of the storm doors. There's going to be basically a toggle on each storm door to be able to latch them so that in the event of a storm, your doors are going to stay held together. The other thing I don't have are the line locks that they now sew into each of the tie downs. I can't adjust mine, and that will be something I'll just have Zpacks retrofit sometime in the future. All right, so anyway, that's a little bit about some of the features. This is all made with Cuban fiber, which is extremely durable, and I'll tell you, it held up really well on the trail. I've heard about some folks saying that their Cuban has kind of deteriorated a little bit throughout their hike, and I haven't had much. You know, I was on the trail a little less than most, but it still is really taut. You know, I'm going to be continuing to use this for my next thru hike, and I don't see any reason why I would go with anything else. But it's held up really, really well. Another nice thing about this, because of its material that's made out of, with the Cuban fiber, the Dyneema, it doesn't need a ground sheet. So as you can see here, I don't have a ground sheet, and I never used a ground sheet when I was on the trail. And I pitched it on all kinds of different terrains. So really, really nice that you don't have to waste the extra ounces of getting a ground sheet. Now, you can always put one on there if you'd like, but Zpacks actually doesn't recommend it, and neither do I, because I didn't have an issue while I was out there. Now, it is a single wall tent, which means that you are going to get some condensation. You're going to have condensation with any single wall tents, and I really didn't experience too much of an issue. There was a couple times that I did have to wipe down some of the moisture that did get in the inside of the tent on really, really wet and damp days, but normally I just didn't have very many issues. So, but again, with a single wall tent, you're going to have that issue. So you always do want to grab some sort of towel cloth with you to wipe anything that may be dripping on the top of the wall. So, all right, Well, let's talk a little bit more about the tent and show you a little bit inside the tent. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to my humble abode here. I'm going to cover a few other things about in the tent. I still can't get over the amount of space that you have here. It's a true two-person tent, like I said earlier, and it just came in so handy on the trail, just having all of this extra space. I highly recommend those of you that are looking at possibly getting a one-person shelter to upgrade and get a two-person, because you're going to wish you had some extra space out there, especially on days that you have bad weather and you're going to be staying in your tent for a little bit longer than you'd like. So, a few things. Again, I mentioned that I set this and pitched this up a little bit higher than most. And what I would do is, when I would have someone stay with me, like my brother stay with me in the Shenandoah, is I would take this down a couple inches. So my bathtub floor would go down an inch or so and have a little bit more flooring for the both of us to stay. I stayed in here with my brother for 6 days, and we had plenty of space for not just our pads, but we actually put our packs at the very bottom. We both are about 5'8", 5'9", so we have some space at the very end. But it was great. It's just amazing how much space that you have inside this tent. Now, each side of the tent are going to have two mesh pockets here that you can put whatever you want in here. I honestly really never used them, but they are there. And attached to it is a cord that basically pulls the bathtub floor up and keeps from the condensation from coming in from the ceiling. And number two, it will help with the overhang here and getting any water and moisture inside when you do have some of the stormy nights. Now, one thing that I learned that is pretty darn neat is, let's just say that you want to get some airflow in here and you have one of your storm doors open like I do on this side right here. You actually can unclip this cord here and clip it to your zipper to pull back the mesh, so that you don't have any issues, or you have less issues with the possibility of any splatter and water coming in. So if it's not downpouring, you could do this and keep one side, one storm door open and one storm door closed. Sometimes you might not even have to do that. I did it quite a bit actually on the trail, but what it would look like is this. So here I just detached it from the clip up there and I clipped it on my zipper. Now, the new Zpacks Duplex Tents actually have some line on the zippers, so you just clip it to the line. But again, I don't have the newer version, so I'll just have to tie some line on there, no big deal. All right, so anyway, this is kind of what my setup would look like. I would have half of it taken up by my sleeping pad and my sleeping bag, and then the other half with my arc blast, and then I would usually set out my electronics right here. And then my map, because I usually would look at my AWOL guide at night and just kind of looking at the elevation profile for the next day and what's to come and anything else. But this would kind of be my area to set up. So it was really comfortable. I would always have to charge my iPhone and a few other things that at the end of the day, because I was vlogging and everything. So I would keep all that charging here throughout the night. All right, now I mentioned about condensation. It's a single wall tent, so you are going to have the humidity that is going to create condensation, or if you have really wet weather and it's raining, some is going to protrude a little bit, and it's not going to drip down. I never had it drip down on my actual floor, but what it is going to do, it's going to be a little wet. So if you're really tall and you hit your head against the top of the ceiling here, you are going to get your head a little bit wet. I strongly recommend carrying just a lightweight towel, or even one of the light load towels, to be able just to clean up or even wipe some of the ceiling down if you do plan on sitting in your tent and reading and it's really wet, whatever you want. But that is something that comes in handy. Now, I got the Camel version here, and the reason why I got the Camel version is because it is going to help with basically keeping you a little bit more private. It's not as see-through and transparent as some of the other colors, and it does weigh just a little bit more, maybe like a half an ounce. I don't know if it's even a half an ounce, but it is. It looks pretty sweet too. So I definitely recommend going with the Camel just because of those two reasons. Anyway, so that kind of wraps up the inside. Now, there is one issue that I did experience, and that is I had a little hole that I got right on my mesh, and that was really because I was opening this so fast and closing it so fast that it just basically bulked up, and I zipped right over it and created a hole. So I just put some Cuban fiber tape on there, but to my knowledge, that is the only injury that my tent sustained throughout my entire thru hike. Now, again, I was only on the trail for 100 days, so most folks are going to be, longer than that, so they might sustain a little bit more, but my condition of my tent is in my opinion, for using it for 3 straight months, in great condition, and I will use it again on upcoming thru hikes. All right, guys, well, that wraps up my review of my Zpacks Duplex Tent. I'm extremely satisfied on everything that I got out of this tent, and the only bad part is really one of the strengths of the tent, which is how big that it is. So again, it's only 21 ounces without the stakes, but it's a big footprint, and there was a few areas on the trail that was difficult to find spaces with that sort of footprint that was flat to be able to pitch it. But honestly, I'm extremely satisfied of my purchase, and I'm going to continue using my duplex tent for my upcoming thru hikes. Now, if you haven't had a chance yet, check out my video, Bigfoot's Earth Day Challenge. I'm trying to get all of our community here on this channel involved in my challenge. Check it out. I'll put the details of the video below. Thanks, everyone. Stay tuned for my next sighting, and remember to always follow Bigfoot.